I want to play you a clip of Lindsey Graham, and I know that you experienced this live in person, but when I first read it, I said, "Oh, there's no way that he actually said this." But I just want to play this. And I just want to speak to you about this. Play this clip of Lindsey Graham at the conversation you guys had.
Under the Joe Biden three strikes you out bill, President Trump led the way. I worked with Cory Booker. There are a lot of people getting out of jail who were sentenced to long terms in jail for nonviolent offenses. They can go back to their families. They can get a job. 31% of our state is African American. I'm asking to every African American out there, look at my record. I've been supporting historically black colleges and universities, and I'm glad President Trump has made it a permanent fixture now. We don't have to beg every year for the money. I care about everybody. If you're a young African American, an immigrant, you can go anywhere in this state. You just need to be conservative, not liberal.
That really mortified me. It sounded like something out of Jim Crow. If you're an African American, you can go anywhere in this state as long as you are conservative. Then he was speaking at the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, talking about the good old days of segregation. Uh, I have to ask you, frankly, do you think Lindsey Graham is a racist?
Well, I don't know if Lindsey Graham's a racist, but I do believe Lindsey Graham is a relic of what I call the old South. And what I'm trying to do is create and what we are doing on this campaign is seeing the emergence of what I call the new South, one that is bold, that is inclusive, that is diverse. You know, Lindsey Graham, he just does not serve the people of South Carolina well. Here's a senator who serves a state where almost a third of his constituents are African Americans. This is a senator who serves a state where the gateway of slavery came through South Carolina. 40% of enslaved people came through the port of Charleston. You would think that this guy would have a sensitivity and an understanding that your language is powerful, particularly when you're in a position of power like a U.S. senator, when you are the head of the Judiciary Committee. You know, this is a thing that I've told the folks in South Carolina that when I'm elected their United States Senator, I'm going to fight for the people who voted against me just as hard as I fight for the folks who voted for me, because that's the job of a United States Senator. Not to tear apart your state, not to divide people in buckets. These are my conservatives who have a chance to go, and the liberals, they don't. It's not his job to choose who has a path to live the American dream, who can succeed anyway. We need a senator that's going to work on behalf of all of our people. Senator Graham is a disaster. And is a disappointment because I used to respect Lindsey. I don't know who this guy is now. It's like watching a live version of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's something going on with this guy, and I just don't understand it. But in the end of the day, I hope the people of South Carolina will give Lindsey Graham a much deserved vacation, give him a one-way ticket back home because he no longer represents the state of South Carolina.
I mean, can you imagine if you would have said, which you would never say this, if you're white in South Carolina, you're only welcomed here if you're a liberal. I mean, that would
No,
be that would be
it's an
insane.
asinine comment.
I mean, and you're right. It harkens back to an old South, but that's not who we are now. That's not where we're going. I believe our better days are ahead of us and not behind us. And it's sad and it's disappointing. But you know, lately in this race, it is expected.
Yeah, yeah. So I got to ask you this as well. There is this narrative out here that Democrats are not doing enough to reach black male voters specifically. You see it a lot on social media. As a black man who's running the Democratic Party, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, listen, we got to do more. And we're trying very hard here. We have had historic engagement in terms of the African American community on our campaign. From day one, we've been rolling up our sleeves with Harrison Helps and other initiatives going into these communities, talking about the issues that are really important to folks right now. Again, economic opportunity, you know, the fact that unemployment in African American communities is very different than unemployment statewide. You know, the education burden. We know that African Americans have more student loan debt than other Americans. The criminal justice reform. We know of the historical inequities and disparities there. The things that break apart families and hold people back. we've been addressing those issues, and we're going to continue to do so. And I believe that all Democrats need to continue to do so. And they have to not only just talk about it, they have to actually roll up their sleeves and go into the communities, establish their own Harrison Helps type events, initiatives where folks can actually see what their values are. And so we hope to continue to do that, and we'll see what happens going forward.
There's a talk about reparations, of course, and some folks see it more on a state level versus a national level. There's various debates on how to get there. What would reparations look like to you?
Well, I mean, the core of that is the word repair. It's repairing things that are broken. And that's when you look at my rural agenda, it does a lot of that. Is going in communities, rural communities that are mostly African American communities here in South Carolina, and repairing infrastructure, building schools, utilizing historically Black colleges and universities in a different manner, giving them a stream of revenue through the federal government so that they can go in and be incubators for small businesses in these communities. Making sure that healthcare and the disparities that we see here in South Carolina in healthcare are great and vast, particularly in the African American community. So we are looking how structurally we can do things to improve the lives of all South Carolinians, but specifically those who have been historically left out, and that's folks in the African American community.